Imagine having stage 4 ovarian cancer, as well as having cancer appearing in your liver, your kidneys, and your bowel. Well, this lady today deals with it with a smile. And not only that, she's helping others improve their health. Please meet one of the most inspirational and fantastic people I've come across so far. Hi, welcome back to the Primal Lifestyle, and I've got a fabulous guest, an amazing guest. I've met this lady over the last few months online, and she is absolutely infectious. So, firstly, welcome, Stephanie.
Thanks, Carl. Lovely to be
So,
here.
Stephanie, for people that don't know you, do you want to do a quick introduction and then give us your why?
Yeah, so I'm Stephanie Taylor. I live in Newport in Wales, and I've been carnivore for about 18 months. And it's changed everything, really, like so many people say. And just to clarify, when Carl says I'm infectious, he means in a good way. You get that?
Oh, absolutely. Your personality is one of the most bubbliest people I've ever met.
That's good to know. So I, when I found carnivore, I was shocked because in the last few decades, like a lot of people, I've just been looking. What is that health thing that I always felt I would be a little bit overweight, then a lot overweight, and then I would get things back on track again through starvation. No, through calorie restriction, you would just feel starving, but allegedly it wasn't starvation. And eventually I just said to myself, what is the answer here? I'd read a lot of books, Forks Over Knives, and these are the ones that say, oh dear, there was the one, eat plants only food. No, eat real food, mostly plants. That was Michael Pollan. And it said about how horrific the meats industry is, how horrific the production is, especially in America. And that was the perspective he was writing from. And I thought, oh, it makes sense. And eat mainly plants. And I thought, what can I do? I don't want to give up. I want to be in shape. I was only having sort of 2 meals a day by then. And I would have a mountain of vegetables for breakfast with a few eggs because I thought you need protein and plants. What could I eat? And then I would have something similar in the afternoon, another mountain of vegetables with different things on top. Anyway, I did not too bad on that, but I got to a point where I was just so tired. I was so tired. I started to worry something was wrong with me. This was before I started carnivore about 2 years ago. And then, of course, people say, oh, you're busy. Oh, it's just menopause. Oh, I wasn't in menopause at that stage. You're busy. It's just menopause. It's just aging. And I thought,
Mhm.
this can't be right. And one day it's just little things where you just remember that moment. It was just a little thing that happened. And I thought, you've got to do something about this. So one morning, I was coming up the stairs, and you move around unconsciously. You're not always thinking of everything you're doing. And I suddenly came to, and I was virtually pulling myself up the stairs on the banister like a very, very weak person of 93. Not that everybody 93 is weak, don't get me wrong, but certainly not like a vibrant 50 something, early 50 something at that. And I thought, I've got to do something here. This is not right. And I did not know what to go to the doctor with because I didn't feel you could just go and say, I've been feeling tired, because you hear of people going to the doctor and
Mm.
saying that, and the doctor's got nothing really to go on. And the way our doctors are, it's to prescribe something is the answer. So I thought, well, the only thing that I know is wrong with me, in inverted commas, is that I had been diagnosed with fibroids a few years earlier. That was 2018.
Right.
And they said to me at the time, we don't need to do anything about these fibroids unless they're causing big problems. They were causing some problems, but I thought, and they said that, when you go into menopause, the fibroids will stop growing or go away. So I thought, well, it's only a few years, no point having an operation or doing something. But I thought, you know what, go back and see what the fibroids are doing. And I think sometimes it's intuition as well, that tells you where to look. I didn't know logically what to look at, but something told me to get my fibroids checked out. So I went and I got an ultrasound scan, and this was in 2023 October. And I had an ultrasound scan a few years before in 2020, but it was during the lockdown period.
Yeah.
However, when I called up to get the results, it was all on the phone then, because you couldn't go into the surgery at that time because of COVID. And so when I called up to get my results from my GP, he couldn't give me the details of if anything had changed with the fibroids. Are they now bigger or smaller than they were? Where are they specifically? Could this be a problem? He couldn't give me the results. And I says, well, have you got the scan there? He didn't have the scan because apparently GPs can't read the ultrasound scan. Only the people at the hospital who make the report. So the GPs are only going off this report, and apparently this report was unclear. So that kind of was wasted. So that was sort of wasted time in actual fact, as it turned out. And it wasn't until 2023 that I went back and I got this ultrasound scan. So while I'm at the scanners now, I'm at the hospital, and I said to the person scanning me, I said, are you seeing anything unusual? Because I thought, you know what, ask the scanner, because the doctor won't be able to tell you. I said, and I explained all that. I said, last time there was a report to the doctor, but they were unclear as to what you were seeing. So that's why I thought I would just ask you now while you're here, because you can see what's happening. Because obviously ultrasound is it shows up on the screen, everything they're seeing. Anyway, I sort of got a clue that something was amiss, because they not only did, I hope this isn't TMI, they not only did the ultrasound on the belly, they also scanned internally.
Yeah.
And the scan seemed to go on for quite a while. So I wasn't surprised when the surgery got in touch to say, could I go for an MRI and a CT scan, because they'd seen unusual things. So when I went for all of those extra scans, and by the time I got the official diagnosis, because then it was coming on to Christmas, it was January of 2024 that I was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer, metastasised to liver, kidneys, the omentum, that's the lining of the whole belly area, if you will. And it was also on my bowel as well, and obviously on my ovaries. Yes, so I went to Google, as you do, to see what the score is. And it said ovarian cancer, stage 4, only with a cancer, they do these things, 5-year survival rates. And for ovarian cancer, the 5-year survival was 15%, 1.5. So I thought, oh, this is a bit of a bummer, really, isn't it?
A bit.
Anyway, I thought, right, I'm so glad, because I had found Carnivore a few months before. I was in the middle of tiredness, this terrible fatigue. It totally made sense, because when you have cancer, it's taking the energy from your body and growing the cancer, obviously. And so it's like hijacking your energy to do bad things in your body. And so I was relieved, because it meant that what I was experiencing isn't normal. This isn't normal aging, etc. There's something wrong, and there must be a way to put it right. And I thought there's 15%, 1.5, that who survive, beyond 5 years and more. And I thought, how could I be one of them? And of course, I don't want to paint the picture now that I just took it all in my stride and just never missed a beat. I was devastated. I was distraught. I was disappointed. There was a time just shortly after the diagnosis where you could say hello to me and I would just burst into tears. If anybody hugged me, that was it. I was off. And I just came to terms with it in a short time. And I just said, you know, you sort of, I didn't realize I had this vision of my future until I saw it being maybe, you know, in inverted commas, taken away from me, sort of thing. But I did have this vision of, you know, I've got an adult son, Alex, you know, maybe he has a family and I would be the doting granny, looking forward to having, you know, a daughter-in-law, etc. And I have a sister I'm very close to, and I imagined us together as the two little old ladies. And our mum is moving from Birmingham to Wales to be closer to us, and the three of us would go out and have a cackle as we always do. And you know, just traveling a bit more with them, having a little dog, because I always talk about we'll get a little dog and we'll share it between us, you know, the three of us. And the other two, my mum and my sister, are like, no, we're not interested. But I know for a fact, you know what happens, Carl? You've seen the
Yeah.
TikToks whereby the one who doesn't want it is the one who's,
Has
you know, snuggling up with it, giving it baths
yeah.
and things. So I know that I won't be able to find this little dog at my house. It'll always be dog napped around other people's. Anyway, so I soon realised I just got to accept, you know, my time will come when it comes, and maybe it'll be much sooner than I had anticipated. And you know what? That gave me so much relief. Just accepting that, it just gave me so much relief. But everyone's different, because I've heard other people who've survived for a long time after a cancer diagnosis saying they just rejected the idea of death, and that worked for them. But
Right.
you know,
It's mindset, isn't it? It's how you want to approach it, isn't it?
I think so. So I just decided, right, I'm just going to make the most of things, live everything how I want to. And the one thing it does do for you is really clarify what's important to you. And I just realized I'm such a more simple than I thought. I really love being with my family and friends. I love being in the sunshine, which obviously we don't get very much of in this country. So I want to, I want to, you know, spend more time abroad in the sun. And I love, you know, the work of purpose, which luckily we have in what we do, you know, coaching people to take up this form of diet. And once I understood, because I dived into the research of cancer, particularly ovarian cancer, which is not as well researched, but there is a significant amount of research about specifically about ovarian cancer. There are lots of different types. I have a high grade serous type of cancer, which is a fast growing cancer, but it is very responsive, at least initially anyway, to chemotherapy.
Right.
And so I looked at what works with this. And of course, I found the work of Thomas Seyfried, one, and many others that talk about cancer needing glutamine and glucose to grow. And glucose we can control very much by the kind of food that we eat. And I just already found a carnivore approach, a primal eating, as I like to call it, and obviously you're the primal lifestyle, a
Mm-hmm.
primal approach to food and eating and lifestyle is very good for cancer. And so you know, that made me double down even further to what I'd already started eating this way, but I hadn't experienced some of the things that people say because they get the energy straight away, they come up straight away, whereas my energy was still low to start off with, even when I've been doing carnivore a while because of the cancer that I already had. So once I'd been diagnosed and I'd really dived into the research, it fixated me more on this primal way of eating, and the way that I eat is more towards a primal than a keto. But I do sometimes go go off piece, but it's less and less. The longer time goes on, the less desire that I have to eat other foods because it's just not worth it. I think on a carnivore diet, you you start to get your dopamine from other places.
Mm-hmm.
You start just for your whole body to just feel really good and your mind to feel much clearer, and you start to get the dopamine from achievements and doing things and from going out in nature and from interacting with people, from coaching, from sharing the word. It just changes your approach.
Amazing. Honestly, great attitude as well. So in terms of the treatment that you're currently doing, obviously diet you're doing yourself and you're controlling and managing that. Are you having other treatment to deal with the issue?
Yes. Well, initially I was very keen to avoid chemotherapy, and
Right.
you can reverse some cancers without. I think each cancer is slightly different in the way that it operates, and some cancers have got a really good prognosis. You know that unless something unusual happens, you're unlikely to die, for example. That's the case with some cancers. And so I was hopeful that I might be able to do it without any chemotherapy. And so I did try that at first, but sometimes the snowball is rolling down the hill so fast that the momentum gained, that little push is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened then, I was diagnosed in the January of 2024, and last year. Gosh, it just seems like so much time has gone. And by the March, the cancer had grown so much, it was scary. I mean, it's in my belly, and so what happens is as the cancer is growing, fluids are dripping into the belly called ascites, and it looks exactly the same shape as a pregnancy, which obviously there's fluid and then the baby's in the fluid. So most of the time I would disguise it with, a scarf, or I had this waistcoat where when you turned to the side, you could only see the waistcoat. You couldn't see, you couldn't see the belly. But I actually did look as though I was just about to drop any minute. And I used to walk just to keep up exercise and getting outside. But when we were away at a hotel or whatever, I would go to the gym and do my walking in the winter, especially when it wasn't so nice going outside, and I didn't know those areas either. So one of those times I was in my gym gear in the gym, people would be like, "Oh my goodness, what are you expecting? Is it your first one?" and all that. And they're so excited for you as they're saying it, and it looks like a belly. It doesn't, it looks like a pregnant belly. It doesn't look like it's just a big belly. You don't feel that you're putting your foot in it, or they didn't feel that their foot in it making the comments. Okay, no. I say, no, it's not my first. I don't want to have the whole cancer story with a complete stranger.
No, exactly.
And bring the mood down as well. Anyway, so that grew so quickly, and I thought, you know what? And I started speaking to conventional specialists. I'd speaking to people, a guy from Turkey who runs a cancer center, which is more a wider range of treatments, should we say, than the average UK cancer. And both of them independently that I contacted said, the situation that you're in, we would advise chemotherapy. You're unlikely to be able to rewind this without. And the cancer I have, as I say, is very responsive to chemotherapy. So I started on the chemotherapy. That was in sorry, I can't losing all track. Yeah, that was in 2024 as well. So we've now gone from January to March. So between March and June, July, I had 5 chemotherapy treatments. They're every 3 weeks, and the cancer went down by half. And I was feeling really well. And I thought they offered me an operation, but I was a borderline for, will this operation be successful? And I think there's 2 elements to success. One is that you then have a quality of life that you're happy with after the operation. And the other one is they class it in months of extra life. Well, this operation that they were suggesting would have required 4 surgeons at least, because there's one surgeon going to do the ovaries, there's another surgeon going to do the bit around the liver, there's one going to do the kidneys, there's one going to do the stuff on the bowel. And the kicker of it all was that I could end up with organ damage to all of those aforementioned organs. And also I could end up with bowel damage and a bag, colostomy, ileostomy. I'm not sure what the difference is, but a bag. And I said, well, what would be and there's a lot of other risks to having a big operation like that. It would have been a very big operation with a lot of months of healing. And I said, well, what's the benefit of, if I have all this, am I, in inverted commas, cured? And the answer is no, I'm still on the same trajectory, but maybe I get an extra 12 months to 18 months of extra life on average. Obviously, some people do better, some people do worse, some people die on the operating table. So you never know. And I just said, with all the risks that were involved in it, and the benefit is I'm still pretty much the same. And also some of those extra months of life, I'm then laid up or possibly sporting this new bag. And I'm not cured in any sense that's meaningful. So after that, I was very well for a while without treatment. And then in December of 2024, so 6 months afterwards, I sort of noticed a little bit of puffiness in my belly, and I thought, oh God, here we go again. So I went back and I see my oncologist, and we discussed it again, and we said we'd start back on the chemo, which we did. And so I've been on the chemo now since March, and I'm just about to have my 6th chemo. I have it every 3 weeks. And then after that, there'll be a scan. I've had 1 scan, it's down by half after 3. I'm hoping that after 6, it's down to almost nothing. If after that, if it's down to almost nothing and there's an operation that they can do that makes sense, I would consider the operation. Or if not, I think what I'd like to do is continue with the chemo, and then for another 3, and then have another scan, and then potentially have the operation.
Okay, so he's obviously very responsive to the chemo treatment, from you saying it's down by half after 3.
Yeah.
Are you finding with the diet that's added assistance or not, or it's
Yeah,
type of cancer?
They can't believe when I go in the waiting room to get a scan or whatever. I remember one of the times I was going in for a scan. I was the only one in the waiting room, very unusual. And this person came through with their clipboards, looked around, went back out, came back out again. And they said, are you Stephanie Taylor? I said, yes. Says, oh, I didn't think it could be you. Not according to what's written down here. Because, I do look so well. And actually, in all actuality, Carl, I feel really well as well. In fact, I feel better than I have in decades. And actually, I feel better than when I suppose that's not a surprise. I feel better than when I was first diagnosed. When I had all that fatigue, I've no longer got fatigue. I've got so much energy. I'm really enjoying life. I'm planning to go away, for a month to sit in the sunshine. And I think these are all, I'm doing the things that maybe I was putting off for retirement or whatnot. I thought, you know what, bring it all forward.
Well, life is for living. You can sit and mope, or you can grab the opportunity and make the most of it. And without being crude about it, we're all dying. It's just when.
Yeah.
And when I was unwell and I was unhealthy, I was shortening that period of time, where now I've extended it to whenever, So, not trying to be crass or crude about it, but, if your attitude is amazing and that your approach to it is exceptional. So obviously you've set up your own YouTube channel. You've got Happy Sexy Health. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Is that part of your journey? Is it part of bringing other people into the fold? Do you want to explain that a bit more?
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll change along the way, but because I do want to actually share more of my journey on it. So what we do is, we're obviously based in the UK, same as you, Carl. I'm sure people can tell by the accent. But
Blimey.
Sorry?
Good blimey.
Yeah.
Good blimey, Mary Poppins.
So my sister and I went deep into this research and found out all this about every chronic disease starts off with most chronic diseases start off by high blood sugar, by insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, diabetes. They're all part of the same spectrum of disease. And people can radically improve their health just by lowering their carbs. And more than that, by adopting a primal eating where you're actually getting the two macronutrient food groups that are essential for human health, i.e., proteins and fats. They're the only two essential macronutrients. Carbohydrates are entirely optional. And when I found that out from a biological perspective, that was a game changer for me because I thought this is the right path. There is absolutely, unquestionably, no doubt about it. And so I just became evangelical. And I wanted to tell everyone because one of the shocking things about this, Carl, is that every single day in the UK, 25 people have their hands, feet, fingers, toes amputated due to type 2 diabetic complications.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that should not be happening in a modern society where all you need to do to reverse type 2 diabetes is to lower your carbs. And most people who have diabetes of any kind are never told that by their medical practitioner.
Mm-hmm. We've become a pop a pill society. I've used that expression before, where people try and find a fix, but not deal with the cause.
Yeah. And I think people don't realize that you can totally reverse type 2 diabetes and many of the chronic diseases that go alongside it, because they're all worsened by that high blood sugar, but they're all improved once you go primal.
Yep.
And
100% agree with you on that one. 100%.
And the improvements are spectacular. Like you've experienced, Clive. Like you've experienced, Carl. I'm changing your name as well.
Don't worry, I get called many things. Don't worry. But being the youngest of 7 boys, my mum used to forget my name anyhow. So
7, gosh, that's a lot.
that's all right, because when I got the hand-me-downs, they were back in fashion by then. But that's another story. But yeah, I totally get what you say. I mean, I was obese. It's interesting because I heard Coach Stephen say the other day that this expression pre-diabetic is a falseness. It's you're either diabetic or you're not, but it's a way of labeling things. But I was definitely heading down the diabetes line, and that switch was amazing for me. And like yourself, I had a skin cancer, or what I believe was the skin cancer. It's only after they removed it, they actually said, the skin cancer bit is just a consequence. You've actually got a nasty melanoma that's trying to get into your bone, which will then go to all your organs, and it's a very aggressive one. And that was a major wake-up call for me, because I was a bit blasé at that point. So I was saying skin cancer, it's not that big an issue. And suddenly told this situation, and I've had X number of follow-ups now, and I generally believe, because of my diet, and it's my opinion, it's not scientifically proven, but I can only say on my own living experiment that cancer has stayed away when it's a very aggressive cancer that was identified because of my close to zero carb. I do bend the rules occasionally. I call myself a dirty carnivore, but my constant staying away from carbs is starved any chance of it redeveloping, and I'm absolutely convinced by that as a personal point of view.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that I would be in a right mess if I was not eating this way, because the high carbohydrates, in inverted commas, healthy diet would just be feeding it constantly, So I'm so grateful that I found this way of eating, that my energies I can feel are in my body now. This thing is no longer growing, it's shrinking. And I know that my diet is helping with that, and lifestyle, like sunlight, so important for everyone, but especially when you have cancer. There's lots of research showing that there are ways that cancer heals you that we don't fully understand yet. It's not all to do with vitamin D. It's to do with many aspects. It's healing mentally, emotionally, physically. in every aspect, sunlight is healing. And it's such a shame that people with cancer are often told, stay out of the sun. Obviously, you have to dose it because the chemicals make you more photosensitive.
Yeah.
But if you're having a chemotherapy and you're eating, high carbohydrate, high vegetable seed oils diet, then of course you're going to burn more easily. But you do have to dose the sun according to your skin complexion and biology, genetics.
As you can see by my golden tan, I'm from an Irish descent. My mother was Irish. She had skin cancer. I've followed the same skin as her. But I found since I've been on Carnivore, touch wood, I haven't been sunburnt at all, where I was, regularly sunburnt as a child and as I was growing up. Any time in the sun would catch. And I generally believe it's the melatonin and not melatonin. Well, I have a lot of bone broth, and I think the element of that is really, really good for protecting my skin. I'm 59 in August, and my skin is as smoother than a baby's bum.
Yeah.
Probably resembles it a bit at times. There's never another story, but and I honestly, genuinely believe it's the diet that has made these major changes.
Absolutely. And you asked me about my YouTube channel. So on my YouTube channel, I share some of the messages about health and how it relates to eating. And also we have groups that we take people through. My son, Alex, he's an adult. And when we said to him, we're going to be doing these 90-day primal body resets, he said, that's a long time, isn't it? Would people want to do that? He's a lovely boy, and he's a man, but you know what mums are like. He's a lovely guy, and he's very encouraging, with whatever we do. And he said, "Oh, why don't you do 3 weeks?" So we actually started doing a 3-week. So it's 21-day primal body reset, where everybody who's interested in trying this out, it's a short window for them to try it, but we are amazed because we thought maybe it'll need 30, 60 or 90 to actually see radical improvement. But actually within those 21 days, the results people get are incredible. So we've got their success stories on the Happy Sexy Health YouTube channel, but I'll give you a couple of my favorites. And they're all from people who are over 40, where many of us then find it so hard to lose even a pound, even if you decide to live for a few weeks on a lettuce leaf and, I don't know, fruit. We all do, don't we? Vegetable, all sugar. And then we go low on the saturated fat and the meat that would actually help us to lose the weight. Anyway, so Jill, for example, a nurse, 59, lost 21 pounds in the 21 days. Wow. I know it's not all about weight loss, but she had a lot. She talks about that in the video. She had a lot of fat around the middle, even though she's very active as a nurse and healthy. She would, or she thought she was eating healthy. Banana porridge, sandwiches, pasta. But then there was the few little snackies on top, because nurses get given loads of gifts, chocolate, cakes, and all that. And it's quite a stressful job as well. And so even with the stress and her continued in the same lifestyle, just changing the food, she was able to let go of that weight, a lot of it around the belly, and feels so much healthier mentally as well as physically.
Mm.
And the other favorite one of mine is Tony. He's over 60, and his blood sugar, not HbA1c, but his blood sugar was routinely 17 and 18 on waking, which is through the roof. A normal blood sugar is 5.7 or below. Sorry, 5.6 or below, and 5.7 is pre-diabetes in the UK. And he, but your blood sugar can be higher in the morning through the dawn phenomenon before it comes back down. But his was sky high. And he had been trying with his doctor and different medications, which were making him very ill. He had to swap from different one to different one for years to get his blood sugar down and consistently down. He was following the healthy diet. He was turning down things that he loves to eat, different kind of meat, different fats, not eating butter, etc. And so when he heard about ours, he thought, you know what, I'll give this a try for 21 days. I don't hold out much hope because he'd already tried everything. He was in the gym almost every day for 2.5 years, and he said he maintained his weight, but he didn't lose any weight. And so it just feels like a struggle and a frustration. Anyway, 4 days in, and his heart attack, sorry, his blood pressure was sky high as well. 4 days in, his blood sugar is in the normal range on waking, and his blood pressure is in the normal range when it had been very high. And he's maintained it ever since. He moved on to the 90-day reset, and he was just commenting on it today in the group that it's all in the normal range, and he still has that sense of, I can't believe this. I've tried for years, and this is so easy.
No, it really is, and it's brilliant. I mean, he sadly had similar situations to me because I had dangerously high blood pressure, and they were trying to get me to take all sorts of pieces, and I'm not a big fan of taking tablets for the sake of taking it. As I say, it's pop the pill culture, which I'm not anti or anything like that. There are tablets that some people need for their requirements, but for me, I didn't need it. I was causing the problem. It's me to fix the problem, and it worked. So good on him. So I'll put a link below to your channel and all that. So if people want to get in contact with you and find out more about your 21-day challenge, and you're also on Facebook as well, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Carl, I'm everywhere. At Happy Sexy Health. I'm in all of the places. Instagram and YouTube are my main places, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah.
And if people want to hear a bit more about your story, you are one of our speakers at the Great British Meetup. You're going to be, so anyone wants to follow up or meet you in person, there are still tickets available. We've sold around about 100 or so already. We're hoping to get about 120, 140, which is enough for our first event. I can assure you, organising it's been enough. I used to look like I was 20 once, but But so you'll be sharing your story at the actual event as well, and you'll be happy to do one-to-ones with people on that front, I take it?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me or see me at the meetup. And we also have a Facebook group. It's got a bit of a mouthful, the name, UK Metabolic Health Event Hub. It's for anybody in the UK who wants to hear about keto, carnivore, primal events in the UK. Join the group, and you'll see what events are coming up. And Carl, I'll give you a link to that as well.
Yeah, and I'll add it to the content below here so they can get that. Stephanie, you are a bloody star, and I'm generally looking forward to seeing you in person and seeing if you're as crazy as a box of frogs as I see you online. So, in the nicest respect, thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thanks, Carl. It's been great to be here.